Okay, all right, all right. It's a Freaky Friday. It is a freaky day here in New York, that's for sure. Weather this morning raining, now sunny. Pretty beautiful day outside now as we speak. That's what I'm looking at out my window to start off my Freaky Friday liquid lunch today. And, some freaky things going on all around the world. But one of the things I've been talking about a lot lately is there's this allegation out there against Joe Biden for quite some time now, okay? And this woman, Tara Reid, who supposedly worked for Joe Biden in 1993, she's told a number of friends, told her brother, told her neighbor that Joe Biden had engaged in some kind of sexual assault or sexual harassment with her, okay? So, now, if you remember going back all the way back to, one of the many attempts to foil Donald Trump's presidency, if you remember back to the Kavanaugh hearings when this Dr. Christine Blasey Ford came out, she said way back in high school, she went to a party at a house. She doesn't remember where it was. She doesn't remember what time, of what year. But she remembers around a time that she went to a party and someone that looked like Brett Kavanaugh did something inappropriate to her. Now, this guy was a man of unimpeachable character. He's been sitting on the bench for years and years and years. He literally was dragged over the coals. Dragged over the coals was this guy, Brett Kavanaugh. And when all was said and done, all the Me Too movement was coming out. Hey, the accusers must be heard, and the Me Too movement was saying you got to have the moment in the lights. If you're willing to come forward, people must be heard. Joe Biden even said some things that, if someone comes forward into the bright lights, then some part of the essence of what she's saying must be true. And I've been asking and asking and asking, why aren't any of the real media channels, or so-called real media channels, the left-wing media, why aren't they asking Joe Biden himself what happened, okay? Because Trump fielded this question for years, all right? Now, I take Morning Joe to task every single day. I think they manipulate the news. I think they start the day and start the dialogue every day with some kind of fabricated narrative to make the president look bad. And I'm not quiet about it. I'm not shy about it, okay? I call him out all the time. Now, I got to be fair because MSNBC was touting the fact that they were going to have Joe Biden on today, and I was suspect of what might happen, okay? And when he came on, Mika Brzezinski, who's usually, part of the #1 manipulation team, she went at Joe Biden. She went at him early. She went at him often. She was unwielding. She did not yield. She did not take a half answer. She did not let up and kept pressing and pressing and pressing. I'm going to show you a bunch of that interview today. But to start off, let's just take a look at some of the best parts when the left-wing media was actually doing their job. And by the way, if you ask me, this is the first step in the entire media turning on Joe Biden and finally letting us see what the plan is, because they're going to allow the door to be opened now, and Joe's going to take a beating. But here's a little clip of some of the best moments of that today on Morning Joe.
I'm not going to question her motive. I'm not going to get into that at all. I don't know why she's saying this. I don't know why after 27 years, all of a sudden this gets raised. I don't understand it. They interviewed dozens of my staff members, not just senior staff, but staff members, I'm told. At least that's what they said. And nobody, this was not the atmosphere in my office at all. No one has ever said anything like this.
Why not approve a search? of her name in those records?
Approve a search of her name.
Yes, and reveal
not-
anything that might be related to Tara Reid in the University of Delaware records.
There is nothing. They wouldn't. They're not there. And if they had, if it's, I don't understand the point you're trying to make.
Thank you to the New York Post for putting that together. But I don't know. You be the judge. Right off the bat, Mika was saying, okay, if in fact nothing happened, and he categorically denied it across the board. This never happened. This never happened. This never happened. Mika asked, the University of Delaware has all of your records.
Coronavirus followed closely behind by
I don't know why
Wuhan-style
Nico's
lockdown.
playing that right now, but what happened is when Joe Biden left the vice presidency, when he was no longer vice president, all of his personal records went to the University of Delaware. He's from Delaware. He was the senator from Delaware. Okay. And all his files and everything were there, and they're going to keep this Joe Biden vice presidential library and archive of things. So Mika said, why not tell the University of Delaware to open up your archive? It was supposed to open up right now in 2020, but then they said they were going to lock it up for 2 more years until he was out of the public eye. We, the voters, should have every right to see it. Why wouldn't we have it out there? Now, Joe made some interesting observations. He said, well, there's a lot of papers in there that I wrote, well, policy papers. And Joe Biden basically said, I don't want to open up my archive of speeches I gave and other things because they could be used against me in the presidential race. So I don't know about you, but it sounds like someone who doesn't want his record of the past, especially from a policy perspective, being brought to the forefront. So if he doesn't want that out there, so Mika gave him another chance. She said, well, what if we asked him to do a search of that whole archive just for the name Tara Reid? And couldn't answer it. I'm going to show you some clips later where he sat there in stunned silence for like 10 seconds, couldn't even think of an answer. And on top of it, he said, well, it's just not going to be there. So I guess we have to believe Joe that it's not going to be there. But he could easily, and if you remember, when Mike Bloomberg was running, there was an outcry from almost all the other candidates, everyone on the left. If Mike Bloomberg had women sign NDAs because there was inappropriate behavior going on in his workplace, those women should be released from their NDAs. Those women should be free to talk. We should let everything come out. So Morning Joe, which is not usually one of my favorites, okay, they were hitting Biden hard this morning, like super hard, and he really didn't have the answers other than what he was programmatically told to say, this never happened, this never happened, this never happened. Now, on a few occasions, Mika said, hey, do you remember anything happening? Do you remember her? Do you remember any of these circumstances? Do you remember if anyone filed any complaint? And he said, I'm not aware of it. I don't remember it. No one I'm talking to is aware of it. Now, let's keep in mind, this is the same guy that just a couple of months back didn't know if he was in Vermont or New Hampshire. That happened. He didn't remember where he was. He's out on the campaign trail. He didn't remember that Super Tuesday is on a Tuesday. And he forgot which side his wife and his sister were standing on in a speech. So when he says, I don't remember, I am not doubting him because he can't remember what state he's in sometimes. So I don't remember is not going to fly. Now, what a lot on the left called for last time, and the Alyssa Milanos and the Me Too movements of the world were out there, what were they saying? They were saying, let's investigate it. Let the woman be heard. Even Brett Kavanaugh had to submit to an FBI investigation to a claim of someone who remembered something from when they were seniors in high school. So I submit, and I'll present you a little more evidence a little later on, but I submit to you that if someone is trying to get on the Supreme Court and they had to submit to an FBI investigation to clear that up, then the same standard should be held for someone who's trying to become the president of the United States. So maybe the next step is a little FBI investigation. And if you ask me, the left-wing media has now started the clock ticking on the decimation of Joe Biden, and we'll see who the establishment really wants to put in their place, because this is not going to end up going away. Tara Reade's been a Democrat her whole life. There are corroborating evidence out there. Something's going to come up. I could just smell it. I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. We'll get into that a little later on. I got some funny clips of Joe kind of losing his place and not remembering, or not being able to answer clearly other than this did not happen, this did not happen. But I digress.